Here's the question tonight after tonight. How many of the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates will still be standing? Because it becomes a question, how many of these are just sort of vanity projects that the financial backers will dry up and go away if they don't do well? And how many of them can actually stick in there and go the distance here? Here's a quick preview of their pre-debate warm-ups on the trail this week.
The goal at the debate is to be able to make my case to the American people.
I have a strong vision for the country's future, to be the smartest, the healthiest, the fairest, and the most prosperous nation on earth, and I can beat Donald Trump.
To our benefit as a country, if I'm your president, I will continue to listen to you.
I'm looking forward to a chance to talk about why I'm in this race.
So what are our ace team of campaign veterans looking at to see who stays and who goes maybe after tonight? Here now, Karl Rove, former Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. Sean Spicer, Senior Advisor and spokesman of the America First Action. Richard Goodstein, former advisor to the Clinton presidential campaigns, and Doug Thornell is a principal at SKDK Political and a Democratic strategist. Doug, let me start with you. Who are you watching closely tonight? Because there are some folks on that stage who maybe people would have expected to have done a little bit better at this point, who may have a big moment. They need to.
Yeah, it's an important night for Beto O'Rourke. You know, he got into this race with a lot of electricity and high expectations. You know, his campaign has sort of, not been what I think people expected. So I think, needs a breakthrough moment tonight. Cory Booker's another person to watch. He's a compelling senator. I think he's got a great story. Yeah. But again, he's another one who hasn't quite broken through yet. So take a look, watch those two, and also don't sleep on Julian Castro. Mm-hmm. He gets very strong reviews on the trail. I expect him to also have a good night as well. Yeah,
I think I'm keeping a close eye on Cory Booker because, you know, I think, Richard, a lot of people felt that he was going to be this rising star. He had a couple of awkward moments. The, Kavanaugh hearing comes to mind and Spartacus, but he's had a really tough time getting traction, but he says he's not worried about it.
Think back to where we were for the first debate in 2015, first Republican debate. We were talking about Jeb Bush and Scott Walker as kind of 2 and 3, right? So, and think about, you just had Lindsey Graham on, who got past the first couple debates, but ultimately couldn't really kind of make the distance. I do think Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, these are people who really are people of substance academically and their political careers. But look, Elizabeth Warren, all the spotlight's going to be on her, demonstrating that she's electable. There's still this concern that whether it's a woman or somebody who's relatively liberal can stand toe-to-toe. Yeah. I do think that Donald Trump coined her phrase when he said about the woman who accused him of rape, she's not my type. I think Elizabeth Warren's going to say, he's not my type. And I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a bit of a bumper sticker for her.
Oh, okay. We'll see if that happens. Here's Elizabeth Warren on the campaign trail today in Homestead, Florida. Watch this.
We speak out as moral citizens, not just of the United States, but of the world. We will stay here at Homestead until this facility releases these children and closes down.
Karl, that's what she had to say today. It's worth noting that she left right after that speech. This is a big issue for this campaign and probably a big issue tonight.
It's also worth noting she wasn't there when President Barack Obama opened the detention facility in his office during his time in office. So we're going to have we're going to see a lot of venting tonight on this immigration issue, but it's going to be coming from people who have had a chance to do something to both help with the humanitarian crisis and try and find common ground and resolve this problem. I'm a big advocate of comprehensive immigration reform. I believe in immigration.
I think most of the country is a pretty big advocate of some kind of, it's ridiculous.
Absolutely. But we're dealing with a much different flow of immigrants today than we've dealt with in the past. Family units coming up from Central America being shepherded up here by coyotes who are employed by the cartels. And this is not a healthy situation for our country or for Central America.
Yeah, I think it's worth playing this from Barack Obama, who was a candidate at the time, in the Democratic debate on November 15th, 2007. Watch this.
The Bush administration has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem, and the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away.
I mean, that could be President Trump's words, Sean Spicer. It's amazing how the narrative has completely changed on this, on the Democrats' party.
Absolutely. And I just want to, one of the things that's interesting about tonight is that while we're calling it a debate and while it's labeled a debate, it's basically a commercial, right? So every candidate gets 60 seconds to make their case and then a 30-second rebuttal. So when we look at what's going to happen tonight, Elizabeth Warren is clearly the star on that stage. Does she live up to the expectations? Does she exceed the expectations, or does she not rise up to them? I hear all these candidates in the clips talk about wanting to make their case and explain their vision. They don't have time to do that. The question is, can they make an impression? And I think my second thing is, not only will she rise or fall after tonight, but of all the candidates that we talk about, somebody will be that other person, right? Of the 9 remaining, one other will be. The second thing I think is important is, will the focus be on President Trump and attacks on him, or will it be on Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders? Because for every of the other 18 candidates that's not named Biden or Sanders, they have to ask themselves a simple question, which is, how bad do you want to be president? Because you can't win unless you take down Biden and or Sanders to become number 1. Just attacking Trump isn't going to get you there. So if they don't start focusing on the people who are in 1 and 2 position, they're never going to find themselves there. So how those attacks pan out is going to be important. The last thing, Martha, I think is going to be important to me to watch is, what role do the moderators play? Too often the moderators become the story. Do they allow the candidates to be the story tonight and the focus, as opposed to themselves?
All right. Great points. Doug, before we go, just a final thought on how differently what we're going to hear tonight is on the immigration issue than what we heard from President Barack Obama, two-term president.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, comprehensive immigration reform has been something that both parties have tried to get done for years. President Bush, I give Carl and his team credit, they tried to get it done when he was in office. It almost ended John McCain's chances at the presidency. President Obama, we did pass a comprehensive bipartisan immigration bill in the Senate. Lindsey Graham voted for it. And I'd like to see more leadership out of everyone in Washington, but I do think it starts at the top with the president and bringing both sides together and saying, look, we got to get this thing fixed.
I just think it's striking how similar what the president's saying and what Barack Obama was saying are, and I don't think you're going to hear, that kind of line of thinking tonight up there, but we'll see. Gentlemen, thank you. Great to have all of you with us tonight.
See you, Martha.
You bet.
Thanks so much.
So.